a former Navy combat veteran got thrown down a flight of stairs by the one guy he chose not to destroy. 6 months later, 4 men kicked in his door. Only one of them walked out, and he did it in a wheelchair. This story has everything: love, betrayal, a home invasion, and a Google alert that delivered the coldest final chapter I have ever read. Sit down. So let me take you back to 2016. I'd been in the Navy for about 12 years, 8 of those spent in special warfare. Not a SEAL, let me be clear about that. I was SWCC, the boat guys. We're the ones who show up in the fast boats blasting firepower so the operators can get extracted. Sometimes we work with helicopter crews. Sometimes we're patrolling riverways overseas, begging for something to break the monotony. It sounds way cooler than it actually was. Aside from becoming an expert in small watercraft, doing a ton of diving and aircrew work, I didn't get to do the Hollywood stuff. No door kicking, no breaching. Only a handful of times did I even get into a firefight. For the record, handful of firefights is still more firefights than most people have in their entire life. This man says it like he's apologizing for a slow Tuesday. Anyway, I got pulled off boat duty 8 years in after catching a 7.62 round in my leg. Did my last 4 years doing cyber-oriented work in special warfare, retired, grabbed my VA card, got some cybersecurity certifications, and went private sector. Got my own LLC and everything. But this story isn't about my career. It's about the girl. I'd been back in my hometown for a while, near a major naval base, and I reconnected with an old high school sweetheart. Her name was Megan. She was my best friend growing up, and I absolutely blew it when I had the chance to take her to junior prom. We didn't see much of each other after graduation, so by the time we reconnected years later, she had a little 3-year-old girl named Lily, and Daddy was not in the picture, which was absolutely his loss, because that kid was a gem. Megan and I took off like a rocket. We were inseparable. Fun dates with the little one during the day, acting like teenagers after she went to bed, texting at work, tagging each other in stupid memes, all that dorky, cheesy, embarrassing stuff that's humiliating to admit as an adult in his 30s. But, I mean, we were in love, real love, the kind I'd never felt before. And after a couple of months, Lily started calling me Daddy. That made my heart soar. I'd been shot at and stabbed. My whole injury was from catching a round in the leg, but none of that made me more nervous and scared than this new love. I had it bad. Oh no, oh no, I know where this is going. Anytime a man says, "I had it bad" in a story posted to the internet, something absolutely devastating is about to happen. It's like the music in a horror movie getting quiet. Something is behind that door. And there was something behind that door. Specifically, a 6-foot cockroach named Kyle. Kyle was Megan's brother, no blood relation whatsoever. He was some scrawny, wannabe gangster who was whiter than driven snow, a former tweaker who used to work at the same store she did. One day, he crashed from low blood sugar, which was actually him coming down from whatever he was on, and Megan got him a cheeseburger and a soda. In tweaker culture, that's basically being handed a fistful of gold. He was forever in debt after that. He called her sister, she called him brother. Naturally, the little one called him uncle.
A month and a half into my relationship with Megan, Kyle showed up in the middle of the night and moved onto her futon. And our first meeting? He was greeted by me and a .45 pointed at his face because I heard something go bump in the apartment while we were in bed. There had been recent break-ins in the complex and nobody else was supposed to be in there. Beautiful. Nothing says welcome to the family like staring down the barrel of a 1911. That's not a handshake, that's a statement. Now, I didn't live there. I had my own place near the base and just stayed over a lot because it was convenient and they felt safer with me there after the break-ins, so I had zero say in Kyle moving in. To smooth things over, after holding a gun to his nose, I lent him my PS3 and a spare TV, because heaven forbid he actually go find a job. Instead, this guy smoked weed on the balcony all day and played video games on my PlayStation. He acted like Megan was his mother, expected her to cook him food when she got home from work, expected her to do his laundry. This man once asked her to relace his sneakers because she does it better. He asked a grown woman who works full-time and raises a child to lace his shoes. I have heard some pathetic things in my life, but this one goes in the Hall of Fame. My guy, you were 23 years old. And every time we had a disagreement, every little spat, his go-to threat was the same thing. I'm gonna kick your ass, and if I can't do it myself, I have a whole bunch of friends who can and will. Now, let me be very clear about something. I was not a SEAL. I didn't go through the brutal combat training they do, but I wasn't exactly helpless either. I'd trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the fleet. I picked up Kali and Silat from some Filipino guys on base. I'd done close quarters combat shooting courses through the Navy. I was injured, sure. Some days I couldn't stand up straight without leaning on something if the painkillers weren't working, but the rest of my body was in decent shape. I could have ended that kid with my bare hands, no 1911 necessary. But I loved his sister. I wanted to marry her. I wanted to adopt her little girl. So I bit my tongue. Every time he flashed on me, I swallowed it. See, that's the part people don't appreciate, the restraint. This is a man who could have turned Kyle into a pretzel at any point, but chose peace because he loved a woman and a child. And for what? We're about to find out. Weeks went by. Kyle kept snapping at me over nothing. I finally decided I'd had enough of at least one thing and took my PS3 and TV back to my apartment. Kyle declared that I was banned from the apartment, to which Megan reminded him that it's her apartment and her rules. Then came the morning that changed everything. Megan and I were heading out early, her to work, me to base. We got the little one buckled into the car seat, and I realized I'd left my wallet inside. So I went back in. And as I was walking toward the front door, Kyle pipes up with, "You're cleaning those dishes when you get back."
Those dishes were dishes he had dirtied the night before, making stoner mac and cheese, a process that somehow required a mixing bowl and 4 different wooden spoons. I looked at the dishes, looked at him, looked back at the dishes, back at him, and I said, "You're high. Clean them yourself, and don't ever tell me what to do again." Then I turned and walked out. I was maybe 6 or 7 steps down the stairwell when I heard the door fly open behind me. I turned just in time to see Kyle coming at me with both hands. He threw me the rest of the way down the stairs. I landed hard on my back, slammed the back of my head on concrete. My bad leg caught fire with fresh pain. Then he jumped on top of me, and whatever daze I was in ended real quick. I started working to get on top of him, and when I did, I rained absolute hell on his face, split his lips, popped him in the eyes, the temple, even gave his Adam's apple a nice little tap. I was furious, and in that moment, I honestly didn't care about the consequences. But Megan came running when she heard the yelling, found me on top, beating the life out of him. She screamed for me to stop, and I did. The second I got off him, Kyle started screaming, "He threatened to kill me. He attacked me. He threw me down the stairs because I asked him to bring back the PS3." Which Megan knew was complete garbage, and the neighbor's security camera backed that up. This man got his face rearranged, and his first move is to lie about it while the evidence is literally recording from 10 feet away. That's not even a good lie. That's a lie that insults the concept of lying. I took Megan to work, I took Lily to daycare, I went to base and had to explain to my commanding officer why I had bloody knuckles and a cold pack on the back of my head. They offered to call the police so I could press charges. I said no. I told them I'd rather take the hit than lose my girlfriend for calling the cops on her brother. My CO made it crystal clear that I was, and I quote, "a particularly stupid kind of asshole," and that this would come back to bite me. He was right. Kyle gave Megan an ultimatum. Either she dumps me or he walks out of her and Lily's life forever. And to be fair to Megan, as worthless as Kyle was, he'd been the only constant male figure in that little girl's life since she was born. Megan didn't want to put her daughter through that kind of loss. So I got the axe. Honestly, I would have rather taken an actual axe to the heart. Saying goodbye to the woman I loved was one thing, but having to say goodbye to a sobbing little girl I wanted to adopt and make my own? I don't want to meet the man who can hold back tears from that. That man scares me. This is the part that gets me. He didn't lose a fight. He didn't lose a bet. He lost a family he chose, that he fought to keep, and some couch-surfing freeloader who couldn't even flush a toilet took it from him. That's not revenge yet. That's just pain. The revenge comes later.
I went back to my apartment, packed up the toys and clothes they'd left behind, and dropped the box off at Megan's work when the time was right. I was a broken man, but Kyle wasn't done. Remember those friends he kept threatening me with? Turns out he wasn't bluffing. In the months after Megan and I broke up, he put them to work. I woke up one morning to find my car blocked up, wheels stolen, catalytic converter cut out, windows smashed, and slurs and swastikas spray painted all over it. What my insurance didn't cover cost me $2,500. Cops were called, a report was made, but the surveillance footage was useless. Faces covered, gloves on, no prints. They're not rolling out forensic teams for auto vandalism. 2 weeks later, someone lit a Molotov cocktail and threw it at my front door. If the building's fire sprinklers hadn't actually worked, my apartment would have burned down with me in it, because I was not jumping from the third-floor balcony. First, they vandalize his car. Then they try to burn him alive over mac and cheese dishes, over a PlayStation. This man's crime was dating someone's sister, and now they're committing actual attempted murder. The escalation here is insane. The cops took the arson a lot more seriously, but same story. No usable prints, face covered on camera. My ex reached out when she heard about the fire. I told her I knew it was Kyle. She said she'd talk to him, and for a while, nothing happened. Then cops came around asking to talk to Kyle, because obviously I'd given him his name as a person of interest. Kyle had finally gotten a part-time gig at some shady auto shop across town, the kind of place you recommend to someone you hate. The owners didn't love having cops asking about their employees, so since Kyle had only been there a couple weeks, he got fired. He deeply appreciated that. And then came the night. I was getting home from work, hit the gym on the way, grabbed some food from the grocery store, pulled into my spot in the rental car because mine was still in the shop, walked up to my apartment on the 3rd floor. Quick context, I legally owned guns and had a concealed carry permit, but on days I was on base, I didn't carry. No secure storage at work, and I wasn't leaving a pistol in my car, which is also why I was unarmed the morning Kyle jumped me on the stairs. I was unarmed. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs fast from the 4th floor. I turned and saw 4 guys in hoods, masks, and gloves coming straight at me. My door was open, so I dropped my groceries and tried to slam it shut behind me. They got a foot in and forced their way inside. What happened next took 14 seconds. The neighbor across the hall had installed a security camera after the fire, so there were exact timestamps. I kept a loaded pistol in a closet near my front door. Irresponsible, I know, but I was younger and more on edge than I am now.
In the scuffle with the first guy through the door, I managed to reach into the closet, grab the gun, and push myself back to create some space. I remember seeing all 4 of them in my doorway and hallway. The first one was already coming at me again. I raised my SIG P226, chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. I heard one of them shout, "Gun!" and I started pulling the trigger. No warning shots, no aiming for limbs, no shooting to scare. Body, body, head, exactly as I was trained. The first guy went down. The second caught rounds that went through the first before I put one in his forehead. The third froze and took 4 center mass. The fourth was halfway out the door when I emptied the rest of the magazine through his friend and into whatever I could see. 14 seconds. 4 men entered that apartment. In 14 seconds, 3 of them were gone forever, and the 4th one wishes he was. This is what happens when you send 4 amateurs to kick in the door of a man who spent 12 years in special warfare. That's not a home invasion. That's a mistake. Now, the first 3 didn't make it. They were pronounced dead on the scene. The 4th one survived. The 4th one was Kyle. Of the 3 rounds that hit him, 1 grazed him. The second lodged deep. The third hit him square in the spinal cord, right around the kidney area. Shattered his spine completely. He was paralyzed from the navel down, permanent catheter, never walk again, never have a normal life again. And when he was healthy enough to be discharged from the hospital, he went straight to prison. 3 manslaughter charges for his buddies who died because he organized the attack. Conspiracy to commit murder, assault, battery. He even caught the reckless endangerment charges for me having to discharge my firearm in an apartment building with neighbors across the hall. He was never going to breathe free air again. 3 of his friends are dead. He's in a wheelchair for life. He's facing enough charges to fill a phone book. And all because he couldn't clean some dishes and let his sister's boyfriend live in peace. Let that sink in. This entire nightmare, from the stairs to the prison cell, started with mac and cheese.
Now I wish I could tell you this ended with a happy reunion, that Megan took me back, that we got married, I adopted Lily, and we lived happily ever after. But she didn't. Within 24 hours of the shooting, Megan declared she was scared of me. She didn't want me anywhere near her or her child. She threatened to call the cops if she ever saw me near her home or her workplace. She called me a murderer. She accused me of getting the cops involved on purpose just to provoke Kyle into a response so I'd have an excuse to shoot him. She ignored the arson, the vandalism, the months of threats.
I never saw her again. She blocked me on everything. Changed her number, transferred jobs, moved to a different part of town. It's been 8 years, and I still haven't heard from her. I know she's alive. Friends of friends told me she got married in 2020, had a second kid, and she's happy. More power to her. I never got my happy ending, my white picket fence. Killing 3 people, even for someone trained for war and conditioned for that possibility, messes with your head. Especially when it happens in your living room and not overseas. There's a massive difference between killing someone for work and killing someone because your life is in genuine danger in your own home. I had PTSD. I couldn't touch any of my guns for a full year without having panic attacks. The Navy was great about it, helped with the investigation. That CO who called me the apex dumbass even gave his statement about the morning Kyle jumped me. I was offered the chance to live on base with protective detail until things cooled down. I declined. 8 years later, I've retired. I'm working private sector, running my own cybersecurity consulting LLC, making great money. Occasionally, I go out boating. My partner of 3 years is the most loving, supportive person I've ever been with. We're talking about having kids before we get too much older. Life is good, but you want to know what really warmed my heart? Just the other day, a Google alert I set up 8 years ago finally triggered. It was Kyle's full name, followed by the word obituary. Turns out someone in prison got sick and tired of the annoying guy in a wheelchair who talked too much trash and flexed on people, believing nobody would hit a man who couldn't stand up. They used the wheelchair to cave his skull in and finished the job with a few good stops. Of course, the obituary didn't say that. It said he was a bright and lovable lad who fell into hard times in early adulthood and landed in prison. The real surprise was that he's apparently survived by a daughter none of us knew about. Sucks for her, but I doubt she ever got a chance to know him. Honestly, that's probably for the best.
All right, my people, let me give you the breakdown. Look, the man survived a 4-on-1 home invasion in 14 seconds. While unarmed at the start, he got to his weapon and ended the threat. That's not luck. That's 12 years of training meeting one very bad decision by 4 very stupid people. The legal system backed him. The investigation cleared him. He didn't go looking for trouble. Trouble literally broke down his door, and he answered it in the most permanent way possible. Full marks for the self-defense. But let's talk about the colossal mistake he made months earlier. His commanding officer told him to his face that not pressing charges after getting thrown down those stairs was the dumbest thing he'd ever seen, and he was right. If Kyle had been arrested that morning, if there had been a restraining order, if there had been anything on paper, then the vandalism, the arson, and the home invasion might never have happened. 3 guys might still be alive, Kyle might still have working legs, and this man might still have the woman he loved. He chose love over common sense, and it cost him everything. Now, me personally, I would have handled this completely differently. First of all, I would never date someone whose brother lives on the futon. That's a red flag the size of a football field. Second, nobody is borrowing my PlayStation. That's my PlayStation. Third, if somebody threw me down some stairs and my response was anything other than calling every cop, lawyer, and judge in the zip code, something has gone horribly wrong. But I will say this. Keep a Google alert on the people who wronged you, because sometimes the universe writes the ending for you, and all you have to do is check your email. If you've ever had to defend yourself or your home and live to tell the story, drop it in the comments. I want to hear it. I want every detail. Don't hold back. Hit that subscribe button, and if anyone ever tells you a man trained for war won't use that training at home, show him this story. The underworld has spoken.